Episode 31, Play and Reward. The calming breeze blew through their window as the trees swayed around them. Evelyn took a deep breath and opened her eyes to the great view. Even after a day had passed, she still couldn't believe she was being greeted with such beauty. She pushed Harvey away from her and got out of bed. After washing up, she put on some clothes. She glanced at her phone from time to time, only to see no missed calls. Without another word, she went to the beach. This was their second day on the island, so she wanted to find something for breakfast for them. The fridge was pretty packed. There were crabs and even a few lobsters, but she wasn't great at cooking them. Furthermore, she didn't really want to touch them this early in the morning. Just the thought of struggling with those lobsters was giving her a headache. Besides, she liked going to the sea. With a bucket and a shovel in her hands, she skipped towards the shore. Let's dig up some clams. When Harvey woke up and didn't see Evelyn, he went out to look for her. He looked out the window and saw a small figure digging into the sand with a shovel. This woman pretended to hate it here when she actually loves the sea, he thought. Harvey put on his swimsuit and went towards her. He realized that she didn't notice him, and a mischievous smile appeared on his face. "There's a big lizard behind you," he called out. "Ah!" Evelyn dropped her shovel and turned around, completely losing her balance. "Where is it? Where?" He burst into laughter and she scowled. "Harvey!" She turned her attention back to the sand. "What are you doing here?" He squatted in front of her. Evelyn signaled for him to look into the bucket. "Can't you see? I'm looking for today's food." "What the hell are these?" He pursed his lips. There were a lot of things in the bucket, and he squinted his eyes at all the scuttling creepers on the surface. While they didn't look great, she seemed proud of her harvest. There were plenty of things inside. Sea urchins, clams, mussels. You know, it wasn't easy for me to catch them. Catch them? How did you catch them? He looked around at the beach before turning back to the ridiculous creatures in the bucket. Why don't I see them on the beach? Are you sure these can be eaten? I swear, if you're trying to poison me, if I poison you to death, I won't be able to leave this island. As for how I caught them, a small smile appeared on her lips as she dug her hand into the sand in front of him. When she finally pulled it out, Harvey saw a small clam sitting on her palm. How did she do it? Seeing his eyes widen, she pursed her lips. You've never caught these before? You didn't do this as a kid? Who do you think I am? He scoffed, putting back the bucket to where it was. Do you think my family would have allowed me to do things like that? Yes, you're Mr. Cage from an incredibly rich family. Of course you wouldn't be caught dead doing something regular people do. She rolled her eyes at him. Harvey stared at her for a long while but didn't move away. Instead, he took another step closer. There are only 2 of us on this island. If we don't stick together, it'll be too boring. Why don't you teach me how to catch seafood? I might even help you if I like it. The man obviously wanted to play around, but she didn't say the thought out loud. After all, if she mocked him, she'd be the one dealing with the consequences of his anger yet again. Might as well give him what he wanted. And so she spent the next half hour teaching him how to catch clams and the little crabs. Evelyn started to dig while Harvey struggled to catch a few clams himself. She couldn't help but watch him for a while. The early sunrise shone over his body, highlighting his well-defined muscles and handsome face. It really was unbelievable. He was an amazing young man, though far from perfect. While at times he acted out of line, there were also a few times where he acted out of love. There was gentleness in his eyes, but also non-negotiable fury. People say that he was the cold and calculating CEO of the Cage Company, but after meeting him, she realized that he was nothing more than a troublemaker. However, there was also a different side to him. He was like a child that never grew up. Even as he was focused on digging the sand, she couldn't help but reminisce how innocent she was in her early years when her father was teaching her how to find clams. It made her wonder what kind of person he was. All of a sudden, Evelyn straightened her back. A little stunned, she turned around. Why was she even thinking about him? Even if she knew what he was like, it still had nothing to do with her. But before she could get back to her digging, she heard a loud voice coming from behind. Look what I got. Compared to your little crabs, I got something way bigger. He had a big smile on his face, almost as dazzling as the sun. Her heart skipped a beat, and she couldn't help but flush at being caught off guard. Silencing those thoughts in her head, she glanced into his bucket. There was no way she was going to be affected by him. She narrowed her eyes and saw a crab at the bottom of his bucket. It's a crab! It was 5 times larger than anything she had caught. How the heck did you catch one? I overturned a huge rock over there and grabbed it. He pointed at the other end of the shore. But the little guy resisted, even pinched my finger. I'll stew it when I get back. Pinched you? Only then did she see the blood dripping from his finger. The smile on her face vanished as she clutched his hand. You're bleeding so much. Quickly, let's get a bandage. He rolled his eyes, waving his hand. It's nothing. Evelyn ignored him. She picked up the bucket and forcefully dragged him back to the villa. We're picking up live animals. You could get infected, she stated matter-of-factly. While she was pulling him back, he noticed the way her other hand was shaking and the way she looked at him. The corners of his lips twitched. Even though this woman was stubborn, he could tell she cared for him. As soon as they arrived at the villa, Evelyn cleaned his wound and gave him antibiotics. While he resisted at first, he turned out to be quite obedient by the end. Why are you always so blunt? She asked as she was applying the gauze on his finger. Would you rather I beat around the bush? He leaned back against the sofa. No, it's just... Thinking about it, she shook her head and sighed. Never mind. I don't even know why I'm asking you this. Once she was done, she tied a knot and took a step back. Done. Harvey raised his finger and grimaced. What's this? Why are there bunny ears? Evelyn had actually managed to tie a rabbit's ear knot around his finger. She shrugged. I can give you a butterfly knot if you're not satisfied with that. I'm not satisfied with either. Harvey made a face. But since you did your best to bandage me, I should give you your reward, shouldn't I? There's no need for any reward. Oh, but I want to. Before she could say anything, he grabbed her by the arm and pulled her onto the sofa. Her back hit the cushions, and he effortlessly wrapped his arm around her waist. Her eyes widened, flashing with surprise. What are you doing? She may have owed him a night, but she already paid it back. Was he planning to do the deed again? But the bastard seemed to prove her right. I want to reward you with a kiss by Harvey, the man all women of New York dream about. It's imported from France. He smirked, tilting up her head and kissing her on the lips. She clenched her fists, but no matter how much she struggled under his grip, it only gave him more control over her body. Dream lover? That bastard. After a long kiss, he finally released her and she narrowed her eyes. Ignoring her racing heart, she snapped, What dream lover? I only see a narcissistic asshole in front of me. I'll prove it to you. Go on, flip through the magazine and check. He waved casually. I'm rated at number 1. Whatever. Evelyn shoved it away. Talking to him was like arguing with a child. He made no sense. Just get up. I'll make us some breakfast. The last thing she needed was for him to take this any further than she wanted. However, instead of wrapping his arms around her as he did before, he actually did what she asked. When he saw the look on her face, he shrugged. I'm hungry too. Make sure to cook something good with the crab I picked out. After all, I had to sacrifice my finger to get it. Sacrifice? Had he always been this dramatic? Evelyn simply ignored him as she strode to the kitchen. What she didn't know was that Harvey was eyeing her from behind. An indescribable feeling swelled in his heart. From the minute he met her, he knew that she was different from all other women he knew. She didn't wear expensive dresses. She wasn't even elegant, laughing uncontrollably and loudly whenever she wanted. She wasn't even that smart, obviously not as educated as most women he'd met. In the past, he'd never been interested in talking to a woman like Evelyn. Menial things like cooking and bandaging weren't really in his relationship checklist. What he really wanted was to see if the woman was elegant, gorgeous, and smart. In the past, he would have laughed at the thought of being with such a naive woman, but now he found her antics adorable. It was interesting to see how easily she could be teased. A woman like her wasn't that bad at all. If his family approved of her, he might even agree to marry her. He froze, reeling back. Did he just think that? In all these years, he'd never met a woman he would want to marry. His eyes widened. Did he really want to marry Evelyn? He shook his head. It was impossible. He wouldn't want to make her his wife. After all, he didn't need marriage. But then he remembered that his family had his next blind date planned for tomorrow, and he didn't feel happy about the idea. Well, he shrugged, feeling his lips turn cold. If they can't find me, then it doesn't really matter, does it? He thought of a certain older woman back in New York. "What do you mean? The little brat is out of town? He left?" In the old residence of the Cage family, an older woman slammed her hand onto the table, staring at the nervous butler in front of her. While she was old, there was a certain coldness to her. With her defined features and glassy eyes, one could tell that she had been a beautiful woman in her youth. Plus, she'd aged quite gracefully. Her gray hair was meticulously tied up with a silver hairpin. She was wearing a tasteful and expensive pearl string on her neck. She was none other than Harvey's grandma Dolores, the wife of the late Rupert Cage. She was a big authority in the family. "Mr. Cage went to the island 3 days ago," he replied. "From what I understand, he'll be going there to supervise a shoot for his commercial." "The brat is coming up with all kinds of excuses," the old woman snarled, tapping her walking stick on the tiles. "I bet he's messing around with those models of his. He's just getting more and more out of line." "Please, ma'am, calm down," the butler said. "I'm sure Mr. Cage didn't mean to upset you. Should we postpone the blind date between Mr. Cage and your friend's niece, or should we cancel it?" "We already set it up, so it wouldn't be appropriate to cancel it." She sighed, rubbing her forehead. There was no getting out of this. "Just tell her that Harvey has some important business to attend to abroad. I'll set up a date some other day. For now, be sure to send flowers and gifts along with the note." "Yes, ma'am. I'll do it right away." The butler immediately raced out of the room and sighed with relief. Recently, Mr. Cage had become more and more deliberate in his absence. While he was trying to calm the older woman down, he knew that Harvey had intentionally left the city to get out of this. This is so frustrating. While he wasn't sure what Mr. Cage was planning, he did know that he wanted to get away from the control his grandma had over him. Actually, this conflict has been going on for years. Ever since Harvey's parents passed away, his relationship with his grandmother started to deteriorate. It got even worse when his grandfather passed away too. Since she was now the principal shareholder, she exercised a great deal of influence on many of their other senior shareholders too. They were stubborn and stuck in their old ways. They were actually the main obstacles stopping Harvey from reaching his full potential. They saw his grandmother as a bigger authority than him. So, Harvey struck a deal with his grandmother. He'll go on weekly blind dates with women of her choosing, and she would get rid of those old fossils. Now, the Cage Company was operating under him alone. He had always hated being under someone's control, even as a kid, so he was simply waiting to turn the tables. Soon, he'd be forced to go against his own grandmother after he had dealt with these seniors. His resistance to her plans had become even more apparent in the last few months. He didn't want to marry anyone because the wife would be given 15% of the company's shares. None of the shareholders knew about this except him and his grandmother, and there was no way he was going to give up the shares so easily. Was the respect he showed towards the elders of his family a mere facade? What were his plans to tackle his grandmother's dominance? Were his schemes already set in motion while he enjoyed his time with Evelyn? Episode 32, A Hard Day at the Shoot. On the island, Harvey was sitting on a chair drinking his cocktail. He watched from afar while Evelyn was preparing for her photo shoot. While he was having the time of his life, he couldn't say the same about her. Evelyn's face was splattered with sunscreen and makeup. To say that she was feeling uncomfortable would be a complete understatement. The sea breeze brushed against her skin, and she couldn't help but shudder in frustration. It didn't help that she was taking directions from so many people either. Finally, she was done with the photo shoot, and now it was time to shoot the commercial. Her job was simple. All she needed to do was hold her skirts, jump into the water, and smile sweetly at the camera. Except she wasn't the slightest bit close to being a professional. "Stop! Cut! Let's do that again!" The director sighed for what seemed to be the 10th time today as he rubbed his forehead. "Your smile, it's just too stiff. Let's give you a 15-minute break, shall we? Drink some water." If it wasn't Harvey who suggested her, the director would have already screamed at the top of his lungs. But he had to admit that Evelyn's figure was perfect for the campaign. Not only was she curvy, but she wasn't all that tall. Perfect for a nymph. The only problem was she was stiff. Every time she was facing the camera, her smile would just freeze, and her arms would hang down her sides. She wasn't showing any passion at all towards the camera. It was like taking a picture of a plain wall. He sighed in frustration. Ugh, this was impossible. While he didn't say a word, Evelyn already knew what the man was feeling. Even she noticed how terrible she was in front of the camera. Everyone looked extremely exhausted, from the makeup artist to the photographer. Even from afar, she could feel their resentment. Her eyes shifted to Harvey, who seemed to be more focused on his drink rather than his job. She gritted her teeth. Stomping over towards him, she snapped, "Aren't you having the time of your life? Did you see what happened back there? I'm dying." This time, he took off his sunglasses. "What's wrong? You don't think you can do it?" Evelyn's cheeks were red from the sudden insult. A part of her wanted to walk away from the set, but where would she go? He owned the island. Squatting down, she sighed. "Look, I told you I couldn't do it, didn't I? I've worked with models before, but I don't think that I have it in me." Although she had never thought of becoming a famous model, she told herself that she was going to try her best in this shoot. But after getting so many complaints, she just couldn't do it anymore. "So what? Do you want me to comfort you or something? Just go and shoot the commercial." He cocked up an eyebrow. "If you aren't done by noon, then you won't have anything to eat." She scowled. "Isn't this going too far? I'm talking to you as the CEO of the company." This time, he finally looked at her. The smile on his face dissipated and his gaze hardened. "After all, this is a very important commercial. It's what sells the clothes. As a designer, shouldn't you be more understanding of that?" This matter really was important. Too embarrassed to slack off, she tidied up her clothes and straightened her back. "How about you learn not to look down on people first?" she snapped. "Since I've already agreed, I'll try my best to get this done and over with." The last thing she needed was for him to look down on her like this. An hour had soon passed, and the shoot went smoothly after that. Zach stood by the sidelines, shaking his head in disbelief. "Miss Petals is so patient. You've been so mean to her, but she takes everything you say as encouragement." His lips curled upwards. "She has a lot of pride. The more you underestimate her, the more she wants to prove herself. It's actually quite interesting to watch." He could see the feistiness in her eyes the moment he told her to back down. It was obvious that she would not show any signs of weakness. Even then, Zach frowned. His boss used to think that those who could be easily manipulated are not worth his time. Now, he found them interesting. He was obviously biased. Everything seemed to go ahead of schedule, until the very last scene, that was. After telling her to start over 5 times, the director finally stepped forward. "No way. Please, don't tell me we're going to be stuck here again." The surrounding crew all whispered between each other, attracting Harvey's attention. If anything, she should be doing well now. He glanced at his assistant. "What's the last scene?" Zach thought of the script that he had just read yesterday. Glancing at his boss, he relayed the information. The female lead is supposed to hold the male lead's hand and smile sweetly at him. The male lead doesn't need to show his face, only his hands. Is the male lead that ugly then? "No, sir." Zach immediately shook his head. "We selected an excellent model. Even if the male lead only shows his arm, we've hired models from different agencies to act with her. If anything, they are more than qualified for the part." Harvey nodded, then walked over. When people saw him coming, they immediately took a few steps back. Only then did he see the way the director was talking to an embarrassed Evelyn. "Just think of him as the person you love the most," he said. "Think of him as someone who's about to pick you up, and it's the first time you're looking at him after a long time." "I really am trying to imagine that." "But your face still looks blank," the director protested. "We should," frowning, he glanced at the assistant director. "Rewind the video, I want to see it." The assistant director rewound the video and played the scene. Harvey stared at the way she was holding the man's hand. The setting sun gleamed over them, making them seem like bright red flowers. Yet her smile was still as stiff as ever. "Is that what you look like when you see the person you love?" Harvey scoffed. "I feel sorry for the man you're with." Her face flushed bright red. Averting her eyes to the crowd, she immediately motioned him to come closer. "Just come here, okay?" He frowned and led her to the side. "What's wrong? What do you want to say?" "It's just, there are so many people looking at me, you know? It's not like I can say what I want to say in front of them, but..." She trailed off. "What do you want to say?" Evelyn lowered her head. I've never been in love. That's why I couldn't imagine it. In the past, she could have easily fantasized about Timothy, but ever since he'd returned, she realized how much she'd already moved on from him. Besides, he was Megan's fiancé now. Thinking of him at all was awkward enough. Harvey tilted his head. This woman. She had never been in love. You've really never been in love before? Harvey sighed. You really are quite rare. How about some help? She snapped. Look, if I can't do it, then I won't be able to finish the shoot. It's been a long time since she'd felt love. She didn't know what to do. Harvey raised his eyebrows. Harvey outlined all the details of Evelyn's body. He felt the warmth radiating from her. There was just something about her charm and smile that could make anyone want to be with her. There was something so delicate about her features that made his heart soften. This was why he asked her to be in this commercial. And there was no way he was going to fail at the very last scene. When she noticed he wasn't saying anything, she nudged him. Hello? Can you fix this or not? There's nothing I can't fix. Give me a moment. He went to the director. Let me play the male role. The director was so surprised that he almost dropped his notes. Mr. Cage, are you sure? He cocked up his eyebrow and extended his hand to the director. Do my hands look good enough for the camera? He asked. Of course. He nodded so fast that it seemed like his head might fall. That's good. He nodded in satisfaction, then returned to her side and grabbed her hand. There was a crowd of crew members around, and she couldn't help but jolt back. She tried to pull her arm away from him, but he wouldn't let go. Hey, what are you doing? I'm helping you. What does it look like I'm doing? Huh? She blinked, stunned. How? Harvey shrugged. Evelyn stared at him for a few moments, as if he had just grown two heads. Did he want to take the model's place? What was he trying to do? Before she could say anything, he had already pulled her back to the chute. Don't waste any more time, okay? He clasped her wrist. We'll only need one take. She felt like her brain had just stopped working. What the hell was she going to do now? I'm the problem here, not the male model, she argued softly, watching the male model being pulled away. Can't we just change the plot? Harvey ignored her. Their hands pressed together. His cold skin complemented her warmth, and she slowly relaxed under his grip. However, the director wasn't exactly thrilled with this idea. Harvey was the CEO of the company, but that didn't mean she'd be able to do a good job. The director finally nodded. Let's begin. Harvey followed the script and once again extended his hand to her. She followed, but even then she was still not convincing. She wanted to smile as much as possible, but now that Harvey was in front of her, she didn't know how the heck she was going to do that. What if I kissed you in front of the camera? He said suddenly, holding her petite hand. She blushed. What are you talking about? There are so many people. Who told you to look so good? He held her chin, making her stare up at him. I can kiss you whenever I want, and I want to kiss you now. There was something about his smile that warmed her heart. At that moment, it felt like the skies and the sea lost all of their colors. Her cheeks were flushed as she gazed up at him. Despite the strong breeze, she couldn't care any less about her surroundings. All she cared about was the quick skip in her heart and the squeeze in her chest. No matter how much she tried, she couldn't stop her stomach from flipping. He was the only thing she could see, and nothing else mattered. It was amazing how easily he could attract her towards him. In this moment, the sunlight grazed across the tips of his hair, shining over his high cheekbones. His eyes glinted with an unfamiliar emotion as he gazed at her. Even the director couldn't help but gasp at her expression. There was something about how bashful she was that made her look like she was very much in love. It was a breathtaking sight. It was as if they were watching a movie about two characters falling in love for the first time. Harvey finally broke the silence as he looked up, cocking an eyebrow. Well, was this a good take? Just like that, it was as if he flipped the switch. Everyone came back to life and the director scrambled up. We're done. The model did very well. He clapped. We're done for the day. Yes, it's finally over. The last scene was brilliant. I have a feeling it's going to be a hit again. Thank you for your hard work. Everyone rushed to Evelyn to praise her. Only then did she regain her senses. Her fingertips grazed across her lips. I wasn't smiling, though. It was even better without a smile. She turned around to see that Harvey had already walked away. Evelyn calmed down a little, and all she could hear were the harsh waves in the background. Everything that had just happened was simply an act. After all, it was his company. He was only there to guide her. Yet, here she was, thinking it meant something. When she saw the crew surrounding her, she snapped out of her thoughts and said, "Thank you all for taking care of me. I really appreciate it." The crew members nodded in appreciation as they started packing up their gear. The director stepped forward to hand her a can of coffee. "Thank you for your hard work too, Evelyn." "Please, Patrick, you're the one who's been working hard here." She chuckled sheepishly. "I've been giving you a hard time since you got here. I really am sorry." He shrugged. "It's nothing. Besides, you aren't the first model that Mr. Cage has assigned to me, but you're quite special, if you don't mind me saying. Have you ever considered dabbing in the entertainment industry? It's been quite a while since a new face has graced us." "I appreciate your offer, but I'm afraid I have to pass. I'm not a fit for the entertainment industry." Her smile faded. This wasn't the first time Harvey sent his women the director's way. One of them would have been Isabel Fox. The director sighed and gave her his business card. "You seem very nice. How about I give you some advice? Mr. Cage, no matter how great he is, isn't reliable. The benefits you're getting, they're only there for a short period of time before he takes them away, just like that. Just think about my offer, okay? Call me when you change your mind." Even the director was surprised by what he had just said. He immediately excused himself and went to his station. Had he said too much? However, he knew there was something about her that made her stand out from all the women he had worked with. Unlike others, she wasn't interested in using Harvey for her career. But was she really naive enough to have feelings for him? This was an interesting case. Evelyn felt the coffee in her hands had turned cold. She sighed, patting her warm cheeks. "Everyone thinks I'm like Isabel," she muttered, turning around. But then again, they weren't wrong for thinking so. After all, they were all aware of Harvey's antics. Her heartbeat finally slowed down as she looked ahead at the calming beach. It seemed like anyone he had ever flirted with had succeeded in the entertainment industry. Is it true what the director just said? Is it just a matter of time before Harvey grew bored of her and moved on? Isn't that what she always wanted? So why does she feel so conflicted at heart now? Has she really fallen for the man she hated the most? Episode 33. I Can't Fall in Love with Him. Harvey was a man that every woman wanted. He was not only handsome, but very successful too. But she wasn't like other women. "A model, huh?" she muttered, laughing. However, she couldn't ignore the bitter feeling in her chest. She took a deep breath and crushed the business card in her fist before throwing it away. The only reason she felt off was the photo shoot. Being in front of so many people made her uncomfortable. She met him by chance, and after a few days, he'd grow tired of teasing her. It was obvious that he was a little curious after meeting her. He didn't often meet women outside of his circle. She was the fresh meat, a new woman, nothing more, nothing else. Someone would come along who'd be far more interesting than she could ever be. That person would capture his attention, and soon enough, his interaction with Evelyn would end. She had already come to terms with that. After all, Harvey was the dream man of many women in the city, if not all of them. He was successful, rich, handsome, and cool. Who wouldn't want him? "Evelyn, you're the only one left on the beach." She heard a mocking voice behind her. She froze. "If you aren't careful, you might meet a big lizard." The man who she had just been thinking about appeared in front of her in all his glory. A dry smile slipped onto her lips. "The only lizard around here is you," she retorted. "Didn't you go back? Why are you here?" "I come and leave as I please, and I want to be here with you." Taking a step forward, Harvey lowered his eyes. He smiled mischievously. "And besides, there's something I have yet to do." "What is it?" He snorted, lifting her chin. "Your memory's terrible. Didn't I just say that I wanted to kiss you?" He didn't even wait for her response as he leaned in. His lips meshed with hers as his muscular arms held her close against his chest. The afterglow of the sunset shone above their heads like halos. It was a remarkable sight. Every time he kissed her, she felt like the world stopped spinning. Somehow he managed to erase all of her worries, and all she could think about was him, and only him. Her heart raced in her chest as she found herself sinking deeper and deeper into a daze. A few minutes later, he finally let her go. Evelyn instantly staggered back. Her fingers grazed across her lips as she glanced around. "You're crazy," she snapped. "What if someone sees us?" He shrugged. "Then I'll have to kill them." Talking to this man felt like digging her own grave. Not wanting to say anything more, she turned away. Harvey stared at her for a long time before ruffling her hair. "Let's head back to the villa," he offered. "It's the last day, so there's a party tonight. Perfect time to unwind." He wasn't wrong. He started walking toward the villa, and she followed him. The splashing waves echoed at the back of her mind, and she used all her strength to breathe in the fresh sea breeze. Her hands trembled as she struggled to restrain herself. She struggled to suppress the restlessness of her heart. As everyone's work had finally come to an end, the party was as loud and lively as ever. There were a few people popping bottles of champagne. Others were singing the night away, while some were too busy talking enthusiastically about their day. Their attitude towards Evelyn had also changed after her stunning performance, so she found herself getting along with everyone. "Come on, eat with us!" A few of the younger girls dragged her over to talk with her. Sure." She glanced over her shoulder to see that Harvey had already left the room. Once he was gone, the atmosphere became even more lively, as if his presence was holding them back. "Evelyn, the last scene between you and Mr. Cage looked so romantic. You must really have a hold over him, huh? To drag him over to shoot with you?" Not really." Evelyn lowered her head. "I was just nervous about the shoot. If he didn't guide me, I wouldn't have been able to get it done." Although Harvey can be an ass, he did help her. "He stared at you so intensely. I wouldn't be surprised if you fall in love with him," one of her makeup artists teased. No. "Don't make things difficult for her," another girl came to her rescue. "How could she fall in love with someone like him? I mean, you know what would happen if she does. I'd say she shouldn't fall for him no matter what." That's a shame. It's a pity. They would have looked so good together." Evelyn furrowed her eyebrows. "What are you guys talking about? I don't understand." The makeup artist furrowed her eyebrows. "What? You haven't heard the rumors?" "What rumors?" "I forgot that you're new around here." She waved her hand. "They're just rumors after all." "Wait." The more Evelyn listened, the more puzzled she became. "What are you talking about?" All three makeup artists exchanged a look. Evelyn seemed like a good person, and the last thing they would want was to subject her to years of torment. "You may not be part of the office, but you're already connected to him." One of them started hesitating. "So, we'll tell you about it." "Okay." A few years ago, there was a model who had just started her career. She met Harvey at an event while he was scouting models for his brand. They slept together, as usual, but after that, he asked what she wanted. All the woman wanted was to stay by his side, but he couldn't do that. Of course not. But his refusal wasn't enough for her to leave. The younger woman sighed. She became too obsessed, and he had to show her he didn't have feelings for her by sleeping with dozens of women. He even kissed a woman in front of her. She couldn't take it anymore and committed suicide. The management team tried to sue Harvey, but what could they do? She was the one who crossed the line in the first place, after she had been rejected. If it were me, I would have just had fun and run. Evelyn froze. The model was foolish for falling in love with a man who couldn't love her back. But even then, she couldn't help but see herself and her for what she felt for Timothy. While Harvey's actions were ruthless, he was truthful. The woman should have accepted his rejection. "So, what do you think?" The makeup artist cocked her eyebrow. "It was a tragedy, but I don't believe he had done anything wrong." "I guess so." Evelyn awkwardly bit her lips. This led to a new unspoken rule for models. The makeup artist took a deep breath. They must never fall in love with Harvey. They could spend a night with him, take advantage of his status even, but they mustn't be confused why they are there in the first place. Otherwise, he'd be their downfall. Their downfall. Her heart sank. Anxiety stirred in her stomach, and she couldn't help but feel confused. She was afraid. But what was she afraid of? Suddenly, she heard Zach's voice behind her. "Miss Petals, Mr. Cage wants you in his study." Evelyn could feel her heart racing in her chest. She gulped and turned the other way. "I'm actually feeling dizzy right now. I'll just get some rest. Can you please tell Mr. Cage that I'll meet him tomorrow instead?" "Evelyn, are you okay? You look pale." Zach held her up. Seeing how pale she looked, Zach didn't force her. He shook his head and took a step back. "I'll just tell my boss about this," he said. "You should head back to your room and rest." "I will. Thank you, Zach." Evelyn actually felt relieved. The only reason she was pale in the first place was that she didn't want to see Harvey. There was something about the rumors she just heard that made her stomach turn. Even when she finally returned to her room, she still couldn't relax. She clutched the blanket with a frown. No matter how much she twisted and turned, she still couldn't get those rumors out of her head. Her hand drifted to her chest as she squeezed her eyes shut. At this point, she couldn't afford to waste her energy and time. The pain she felt for Timothy was enough to last her a lifetime. Meanwhile, Harvey crossed his arms over his chest. He tapped his foot as he waited for Evelyn's return. His eyebrows raised when he saw Zach walk in alone. "Where's Evelyn?" "Sir, I went to the banquet hall to look for Miss Petals, but she didn't look like she was feeling well. I came to tell you that she went back to her room to rest." His frown deepened. "She's not feeling well?" "I feel like she's suffering from a heat stroke. Her face was very pale." He nodded slowly. After all, she was filming the entire day, so it must have taken a toll on her. "I understand." He nodded. "Thank you, Zach. Please arrange for our trip back tomorrow." "Yes, sir." The young man finally left, and Harvey stared at the little box on his table. In that box was an exquisite necklace with a translucent blue crystal and a black pearl sitting right in the center. His fingers grazed against the smooth surface as a small smile appeared on his lips. He closed the jewelry box, stood up, and walked out of the room, making sure to stop at Evelyn's door. It was her room, but it had also been his for the past 2 days. The hall was quiet. There was an enormous party going on downstairs, so no one would think of coming upstairs. He slowly pushed the door open. "Evelyn," he called. "How are you?" There was no reply. Pursing his lips, Harvey stepped inside to see a small figure bundled up in the bed. Her eyes were closed, and she breathed slowly. "You're so arrogant," he uttered, shaking his head. "You didn't even wait for me to come to you and just fell asleep." The woman's face was really small. His palm was almost bigger than her face. Her eyelashes were long as they brushed against her cheeks. She was like the Sleeping Beauty, just waiting for her Prince Charming to rescue her. Her face was shining under the moonlight, and her dark red lips were enough to capture his attention. Harvey let his fingertips thread down to her cheeks as he leaned in just a bit, taking her face in. Unable to help himself, he bent down and kissed her right on the lips. The warmth of her skin brushed against his. He felt like he was kissing something as light as a feather. He took one last look at her before leaving the room. As soon as the door closed behind him, Evelyn opened her eyes in a daze. Her face turned bright red. Her hands were trembling as she touched her bottom lip. It felt like her entire body was on fire. "Damn it," she muttered, sitting up. What did the kiss mean? What was he trying to say? She clutched her chest, trying to calm her racing heart. Someone like Harvey couldn't like her, could he? She wasn't rich, and she certainly wasn't smart. She'd be constricted in that life, a life of extravagant parties and expensive jewelry. Her hands twisted. She had done this before, wished for a better life with Timothy, but it didn't work out for her. Why would it this time? She took a deep breath. The night was hazy and the sand looked damp under the glittering moonlight. While laughter and smiles filled the party, one couldn't say the same for the rooms above them. Evelyn was filled with the somber thoughts, and Harvey was deep in contemplation. The next morning, Evelyn yawned and sat up on her bed. There were dark circles around her eyes as she hadn't slept a wink last night. Just as she was about to step out of the room, she saw Harvey standing by the doorway. She immediately staggered back in surprise. "What are you doing here?" He raised his eyebrows. "Can't I be here?" "I didn't say that," she frowned. "Did this man come here to cause trouble?" Just as she was about to say something, he tilted his head. "Are you feeling any better?" Her heart jumped and she looked away. "Yes, I'm fine. I slept well last night." She twisted her wrists, trying her best to avoid his eyes. Harvey didn't seem to doubt her words one bit. Instead, he nodded. "Let's have breakfast," he stated. "Then we can head back to New York." "All right." She suddenly remembered something. "Wait, where's my phone and bag?" "I'll give them to you once we arrive. Besides, there isn't any signal around here, so you wouldn't be able to use it." He shrugged and walked away. As she watched him leave, she felt like something was stuck in her throat. After breakfast, she saw a dozen people boarding the plane in front of them. Evelyn was just about to go up with them when Harvey held her back. "We'll be taking the plane at the back." "At the back?" She pursed her lips. "I want to sit with everyone." "Just sit with me, okay?" Instead of arguing back like she usually did, Evelyn bit her lip and nodded. Harvey couldn't help but stare at her with furrowed eyebrows. "You're actually going to sit next to me?" he asked. "Why are you acting so weird?" I'm just tired, that's all." Even when he frowned, he didn't ask any more questions. They boarded the plane. There were so many thoughts running through her mind, but if there was one thing she was sure of, it was that she'd soon leave Harvey's side. Once this was all over, she could finally calm down. Maybe she could cleanse herself of all these stupid emotions running through her right now. After flying for a while, Evelyn finally woke up. She could feel her eyelids drooping as she gazed at the skyscrapers below them. "Are we almost there?" "The plane's about to land." He raised his head. "Close your eyes." She straightened her back and blinked. "What are you trying to do?" "Just do it." Although she didn't want to do as he told her, she decided against arguing and closed her eyes. She felt a shadow standing over her and felt his fingertips brushing against her skin. "We're here." She finally opened her eyes and felt something cold on her skin. Her fingers went up to her neck. There was a necklace sitting on her chest. "The necklace is called Ocean Lover." His lips curled into a smile. "It's a gift." Before she could say anything, the screeching sound of the plane landing on the runway filled their ears. She winced a bit before they finally wheeled to a stop. Silence overpowered them, and she stared up at him in a daze. She had been so used to his coldness and arrogance that she was surprised by how gentle and sweet he could be. Even if he acted high and mighty with everyone, he was nice to her. But would this gentleness last forever? Will Evelyn accept this gorgeous gift and make herself vulnerable to another heartbreak? Episode 34, Rejecting Harvey. Evelyn's chest tightened. She reached out her hand and took off the necklace. With trembling hands, she handed it back to Harvey. "I can't accept this." He tilted his head. "I don't have any ulterior motives, you know. You don't have to be so cautious about accepting the gift." But that was the point, wasn't it? Her smile turned even deeper. The more he insisted that there weren't any ulterior motives, the more she was sure that she shouldn't be accepting the gift. Having feelings for him could end up being the worst possible mistake. She had already learned from her past mistakes, and she wasn't about to make another one. "The name is quite symbolic, don't you think?" Evelyn raised her eyebrows. "You should give it to your lover." "I already told you that I don't have a lover." He frowned. "I'm sure you'll find one in the future." She blinked, not backing down. "I just wanted to give you something. Do you really have to do this?" He frowned in frustration. Ugh, this woman. Harvey had clearly said that he wanted her to be his lover. Had she lost her memory or something? She was the one who rejected him in the first place. What was she trying to say now? "Harvey, She opened her mouth, wanting to say that they should probably stop spending time together. Suddenly, he had a bad feeling in his chest. "Since you don't like this gift, how about seeing your favorite designer?" He finally blurted out. "Wait," she froze. "You're really going to let me meet him?" "I already invited him for dinner tomorrow night. You can ask him for tips or even advice." He shrugged and turned away. "Well, do you want to meet him or not?" A second ago, Evelyn wanted to cut all ties with him, but she couldn't resist this temptation. After all, who wouldn't want to meet their idols? She almost jumped out of her seat. "I want to see him!" After that, she got off the plane in a daze. While she didn't accept the necklace, she didn't cut ties with Harvey. The winds brushed against her face, bringing her back to reality. The words she wanted to say died in the back of her throat. She took a deep breath. When she had finally returned home, she turned her phone on. As soon as she did, a bunch of unanswered calls popped up, all from Cindy. "Damn," she muttered. She called her back, and Cindy's anxious voice came from the other end of the line. "Where have you been these last few days? Why did the manager say that you and Harvey are together? Are you two dating?" You asked so many questions at once. Evelyn pulled the phone away from her ear. "How am I going to answer you?" "You can answer one by one." She gazed at the setting sun and shook her head, holding back a yawn. Even if Cindy wanted to know about her relationship with Harvey, it wasn't like she had any answers for her. "Cindy, it's a long story. I'll tell you all about it when we see each other, okay? Just, you don't have to worry about me. I'm fine," Evelyn said, before hanging up the phone. Cindy pressed her lips. She called again a few times, but Evelyn didn't answer. "Forget it. I'll just talk to her later." She sighed and turned away. She wanted to tell Evelyn that her brother Timothy and Megan weren't engaged, that he decided not to propose. As soon as Harvey returned to New York, his phone started ringing off the hook, and he gritted his teeth, annoyed. "Madam has left a message. She said that you'd still have to go on the blind date," Zach stated. "It's arranged for this Friday. Do you want to reply?" "There is no need." His face darkened. "Do you want to go?" "No." In his heart, he couldn't help but feel a little sad. Why did he have to react like that when he felt like Evelyn was about to sever all connections with him? His heart drummed in his chest. Why did he want to avoid her? This didn't even make sense. Did he really care about her that much? Why did he stop her from ending their relationship? Usually, he couldn't care less if the woman left him, but the case with Evelyn was different. Was he really that obsessed with her? The mere thought was confusing him. What made her change her mind? What made her want to reject him that badly? She mentioned that he'd find a lover soon. Did she really care about that? Did she want to be his lover? Harvey scowled, looking away. He just couldn't figure her out. The next morning, the optimistic Evelyn felt like she wanted to soar high to the clouds. She wanted to fly up to her roof and scream at the top of her lungs because she was about to meet her favorite designer. Evelyn couldn't stop thinking about tonight's dinner. She had goosebumps every time she thought of it. She couldn't concentrate at work all day. Harvey was gone from her mind. She'd finally be able to meet the mind behind the amazing fashion brand called Clock, the man she had been admiring for years. The Clock designs had always moved her heart. With every collection they released, she always found herself more and more taken by their intricate designs. They always knew what clicked with women, and if she had enough money, she'd buy it all. He was a mysterious person, never showing himself in the public's eye. The only thing she knew about him was that he's smart. Otherwise, how could he design those gorgeous dresses? The more she thought about it, the more excited she became. By 3 o'clock in the afternoon, she headed back to the changing room to end her shift. Just as she was about to leave, she came across one of her colleagues. The young woman immediately jumped upon seeing her. "Ah, Evelyn, there's a handsome man waiting for you outside. Don't let him wait too long," she said excitedly. "Someone is waiting for me?" She furrowed her eyebrows. "And he's handsome, too." The woman nodded rapidly. "Hurry and look." As soon as the woman said that, she rushed to change her clothes. Evelyn was confused about what had just happened. She glanced at her palms. Handsome? Did she mean Harvey? But who wouldn't know him? They'd probably all be screaming at the top of their lungs if it was Harvey. Could it be Mark? She stepped out and saw a male figure standing. The sunlight outlined every curve of his body, making him appear regal and warm at the same time. As soon as she locked eyes with him, she could feel her whole body go numb. Her heart immediately felt heavy. Timothy. Evelyn. He sensed that someone was staring at him and turned around. There was something about his features that made her think God had his favorites. From his feather-like lips to his soft gaze, it was enough to make any woman want him. As she watched him walk towards her, she couldn't find it in her to move away. "Evelyn, are you done with your shift?" "I was just heading home, so I thought of giving you a ride too." She blinked. What was he trying to do? She had promised Megan that she wouldn't see him again, so why was he here now? Did he still feel guilty? Evelyn raised her head to look at him and finally said, "Timothy, I think it's best if we don't keep meeting like this." Timothy felt a stabbing pain in his heart, but kept his cool. "What's wrong? Is it because of your boyfriend?" he asked gently. "Am I not allowed to drive you home anymore?" "It's not like that. It's just..." Evelyn glanced around before sighing. "If you keep coming here like this, Megan won't be happy." He frowned and glanced around. There were tons of people walking across the street, so he chose not to say anything about their canceled engagement. "You don't have to worry about her," he then said. "Besides, I came here for a different reason. There are a few things I wanted to talk to you about." She saw how serious he was and slowly nodded. "Okay." Timothy smiled when she agreed. They went to the parking lot and got into his car. "So, how's work going?" Timothy asked. "It's going great, really. Pretty good." She gradually relaxed in her seat. The awkwardness between them was gone, replaced with something more comfortable. After all, he used to be someone very familiar to her. The car finally reached Evelyn's house, but he was still hesitant. A part of him wanted to keep quiet, but if he did, he knew that he wouldn't have the chance to say it again. His grip tightened on the steering wheel as he clenched his jaw. She glanced at him. "Timothy, if you have something to say, you can say it." Shooting her a deep, long stare, he finally nodded. "I'll be frank then." He placed his arms over his chest. "Are you and Harvey really dating?" She blinked, surprised. Evelyn expected him to ask how she was, or probably something about Megan. Not this. Memories suddenly flooded her mind as she thought about the time Harvey saved her. Her heart skipped a beat, and she couldn't help but turn away. "Oh, we're dating, yes," she muttered. They were definitely not going out. But it wasn't like she could get out of the lie now. This could last her a while. In the future, she could just say that things didn't work out between them. He took a deep breath. "You don't understand the man you're dealing with, Evelyn. He's not someone you can trust." Ah. Was he worried that Harvey had led her on? Her cheeks flushed as she processed his words. "Timothy, you shouldn't worry about my relationships," she comforted. "We're just fine." "If you don't listen to me, then look at this." With a frown, Timothy grabbed his bag from the back seat and gave it to her. "These are all the articles about him. He plays with women and later throws them out of his life. You can't. He's not good for you." Evelyn looked over the newspaper, and a bitter smile appeared on her face. These were all the things she already knew about Harvey. After all, she'd been stalking him for a while as part of the paparazzi. He must have put in a lot of effort to get them, but he still didn't have to worry about her over this. Evelyn took a deep breath and placed all the papers to the side. "You really don't have to take responsibility for me, Timothy. We're not related, are we?" She smiled. "Let me make my own decisions." While she was calm and composed, he was neither. He could feel his heart throbbing as his fingers dug deeper into his palms. He tapped on the papers. "I really am worried about you, Evelyn. Can't I do that?" He grabbed her hand. Her heart ached a bit, but she still managed to pull her hand away. The last thing she needed was to talk about her feelings for him, or what they used to have. After all, it was all long gone, and she'd moved on. They must set boundaries. "I'm an adult now, so I know what I'm doing. Look, you really don't have to worry about us." Timothy pressed his lips. At that time, she was still very young and inexperienced. Sometimes she'd make excuses for him just to stay by his side. On that fateful night on Valentine's Day, she confessed to him, "Timothy, I love you and will love you forever." There was no fear in her when she smiled at him. Chasing after him gave her so much courage. All she'd ever wanted was to be his wife. That was it. But now, it was different. She finally moved on. It seemed like she finally outgrew her old dreams. A small bitter smile slipped onto his face as he turned away. He knew this was going to happen, that she'd eventually move on from him and fall in love with someone else. He just wished that it would happen later than this. Timothy knew how selfish he was. He was the one who rejected her, yet he still wanted her to like him. He didn't care what would happen. He just didn't want her to move on from him. Breathing hard, Timothy kept staring at her. There was sadness in his eyes, but he blinked it away. "Does he make you happy at least?" he finally asked. "I hope he's not like me, who only made you cry." Evelyn felt a lump in her throat. "He makes me very happy," she said slowly, holding back tears. "You've given me so many memories, and I'm very grateful to you." She had loved him so much, because she knew that this man would never hurt her. Not only did he give her the strength to live and the courage to laugh, but he had also been there to comfort her in the darkest of times. But Evelyn knew that they belonged to two different worlds. "At least he's better than me in this aspect." He finally smiled as he looked into her eyes. "Your happiness has always been important to me, okay? As long as you're happy, I am too." It seemed like he finally accepted the fact that she never belonged to him. Evelyn silently opened the car door. After some hesitation, she turned back. "I know that Harvey may not be the best guy according to the headlines, but the real him isn't as bad as you think. He treats me well, and there are so many good things about him. I appreciate you worrying about me, Timothy, but I have it under control." She smiled. "I should leave now." Without another word, she got out of the car and walked towards her apartment building. Timothy watched her walk away. She was wearing a light pink dress today, and it looked even more elegant under the shadowy light. His heart thumped. He regretted not telling her how good she looked today. He had always been one step away from everything. The worst thing about it was that he missed another opportunity to get the girl he truly loved. He sighed. But it was okay. Even if he wasn't able to praise her beauty, another man would. She'd be happier to hear it from him than from Timothy. As long as she's happy, that's all that ever mattered to him. After she closed the door behind her, Timothy finally left. He drove down the road, but the pain in his heart seemed to grow more and more. Clenching his jaw, he grabbed a bottle from the back seat and popped a few pills into his mouth. He breathed a sigh of relief as the pain numbed. He rested a while before driving off. There were just things that he couldn't tell her. There was a reason that he had rejected her, but he'd never tell her that. This pain, it's better if he bears it alone. What secrets is he hiding from Evelyn? What was the real reason behind the rejection? Is he really so magnanimous to have no problem with Evelyn dating someone else? Or is he toying with her again? Episode 35, Meeting Gone Wrong. Evelyn didn't know that Harvey had tried to find her when she left the restaurant. He happened to be nearby and wanted to help her dress up before meeting her favorite designer. What he didn't expect was to hear that she had left with a man, the same man he had seen on that rainy night. "He's Cindy's brother Timothy," Mike smiled. "He just came back from Europe a couple of days ago." The minute he heard this, his mood changed. Without another word, he left the building and got into his car. "Look up Timothy Green for me," he told Zach, who was in the front seat. "Of course, sir." He didn't know what was going on, but did as he was told. After around half an hour, he finally gathered everything he needed and sent it to his boss. Harvey looked through all the information, cocking up his eyebrow. "This is everything you have on him?" "Yes, sir." "Interesting." Timothy didn't have any connections in the upper circle. In fact, the only people he was connected to were his sister, Evelyn, and Megan. He pressed his lips and narrowed his eyes. This woman was also there that rainy night. The way Megan was flinging her arms around Timothy, they looked close. However, as he read through the end of the document, it looked like the man didn't go through with a marriage proposal. The word spread across New York. Evelyn once told him that she'd never been in love before, yet it seemed like she was chasing this man all around New York. His frown deepened as he tapped his tablet screen. Timothy had nothing to do with her. He also didn't have any relationship with any other woman. Even the night he came to pick her up, Harvey could see the hostility in the man's eyes. Then, he was too lazy to figure it out. After all, he wasn't the type of man who had ever thought about love before. He flung the tablet back to his assistant and raised his head. These were just menial things he didn't need to worry about. "As long as I get to be with her, it's going to be fine," he muttered to himself. Zach's eyes widened. What the heck was going on? Was the boss trying to date Evelyn? But hasn't he told her that she was nothing special? He is full of contradictions. Zach didn't show his surprise, and Harvey didn't say another word about it. "Go to the clock headquarters and inform Alex Langdon I'm coming over. There's someone I want him to meet." "I will." Zach made the phone call. Harvey, on the other hand, was too busy staring at the window. He crossed his legs as his fingers drummed against the leather seat. He had never been the type to sit around and watch things happen because he was a doer. Evelyn was his, and no one else could have her. No matter what Timothy was planning, he had to win her over first. Megan was his childhood friend. While she was nothing more than a pawn on the chessboard, she could still influence the game. In order to get what he wanted, he would use any methods at all, no matter the consequences. And just like that, he had a plan. Later that night, Evelyn finally left her apartment and saw a sleek car by the entrance. She tugged on her skirt when she saw Harvey standing by the car door. He nodded with approval. "Guess you know how to dress up after all," he said. "Else, I wouldn't have taken you to meet the designer." She shrugged. "You're taking me to meet a famous designer. I know that I must look presentable." He tilted his head. Presentable? Was she doing the same whenever she saw him? He couldn't help but look back to the times he had seen her. Most of the time, she was wearing a pair of basic jeans and a baggy tee. There was even a time she wore a checkered shirt. It was as if she was heading to a park rather than meeting up with him. "So why don't you dress up when you see me?" Why did she not put in the effort whenever she saw him? Was she trying to scare him off? Let's talk about something else. Evelyn immediately changed the topic, glancing away. "Tell me more about Alex. I bet she's beautiful." "Why would you think Alex is a woman?" She waved her hand all around her. "Well, she understands women, and she's able to make stunning clothes that fit them. I mean, I'm sure she's a she, right?" The woman's logic was as stupid as ever. Harvey hid his smile. "Is that right, Sherlock?" He crossed his arms over his chest. "Yes, she's a woman.
And she's very beautiful, too.
Really? She was so excited that she almost jumped out of her seat. How beautiful is she, the otherworldly kind? He leaned back in his seat.
Well, why don't you see for yourself? A surprise is more fun, isn't it?
Her eyes lit up. They arrived in the Soho area. Evelyn looked around in amazement as she clasped her hands together. She wondered what the designer looked like and how beautiful she must be to create such otherworldly designs. What she didn't expect was to see a pale man looking down at her. He was wearing a black long-sleeve shirt paired with thin-rimmed glasses. As soon as he saw her, he extended out his hand.
Hello, my name is Alex.
It's a man! Evelyn shot Harvey a glare. Liar! Why didn't he tell her Alex was a guy?
I told you that I'll bring you to meet the designer, didn't I?
Harvey gazed at her in amusement.
Shake hands with him already.
Bastard. Flushed, she immediately reached for his hand and shook it. Alex, I'm Evelyn, she stuttered out. I love your designs. How the heck was she supposed to know Alex was a man? She initially wanted to hug him and all, but now she felt a little awkward. Seeing the surprised look in her eyes, he patted her shoulder.
You have to understand one thing in the fashion industry,
he whispered.
Even a man knows how to appreciate a woman's beauty.
Evelyn was at a loss of words. She didn't know what to say. Once the three of them sat down, the atmosphere got a little awkward. Since Harvey was there, she couldn't find a chance to talk to Alex or ask him questions. Luckily, a few minutes later, Harvey's phone started ringing.
I have to take this.
He quickly excused himself and walked a few feet away. Oh, thank God. Evelyn smiled sheepishly at the designer. However, just as she was about to say something, he said,
Did you say that you wanted to become a designer?
Yes.
Why? Isn't it better to just stick around Mr. Cage?
Alex took a sip of his tea. His gaze remained impenetrable and cold.
It's obvious that he likes you. Not only did he change the model, but he even interrupted my work and called me here. You don't even have to work hard. Just show him your mediocre designs and he'll arrange a fashion show. It's pretty convenient to be a woman like you. All you have to do is spread your legs and you can get anywhere you want in this world.
Evelyn could feel her insides turn cold. She stared at Alex in a daze, doubting that she had heard him right. She only met him a couple of minutes ago and he thought he knew everything about her. Her fingernails dug deeper into her palm. Just as she was about to bite back, she stopped herself. It must have been insulting him that they changed the model for his designs. Plus, she had asked to meet him without considering if it was convenient for him. From an outsider's perspective, she really was a little rude. However, she didn't appreciate the way he expressed his annoyance. Look, I'm sorry that I asked to see you when you were busy, but I really had nothing to do with modeling for that shoot. If you have any complaints about that, please take them to Harvey. He asked me to model that day, and the condition was that I would meet the designer I looked up to. Evelyn snapped. You design for women, so how can you be looking down on them? Whether I succeed as a designer depends on my work alone. Is that clear? Alex frowned. He finally looked up, staring into the sharp-tongued woman as if he was seeing her for the first time.
You have a character, don't you?
You insulted me. She narrowed her eyes.
Even then, you shouldn't blame me for misunderstanding you. You're still sleeping with the man, which makes you his woman. So, this discrimination you're facing, that's still on you.
Still on her? He was the one who was being mean to her. Evelyn slammed her hands on the table and stared at him. Why are you talking to me like this anyway? She snapped. You keep on comparing me to the other women he slept with. Do you think I want to sleep with him? Alex tilted his head, unfazed by her comments.
You should watch your tongue when you're speaking about Mr. Cage,
Harvey said from behind her. Her heart dropped. She turned around to see the tall man glaring down at her. His face was as cold as the statues she'd seen in museums. Oh, fuck. This was bad. She wanted to die on the spot. I didn't mean what she stuttered, not really knowing what to say. Harvey tilted his head. She could feel the coldness in his eyes seep through her skin.
I didn't think you'd be bold enough to discuss our personal matters at the dining table.
He glanced at the designer.
Not to mention to someone you've just met.
Her lips turned white, followed by her entire face. At this point, she just wished that the entire world would end. The designer she admired was very different from the man she met today. Not only did he judge her so openly, but he got her in trouble with Harvey, as if he hadn't done enough already. She had no choice but to look down, not making another sound. Harvey sat next to her, but the atmosphere was tense. This dinner was truly the worst she had ever been to. A few hours ago, she wanted to talk about her ideas and dreams with the designer she admired. Instead, it was too awkward. Now she just wanted to go home. Even if this person wanted to give his advice about working in the industry, he definitely wouldn't be spending the next couple of hours sharing it with her. She looked down. Look, I'll just leave.
You're not leaving.
He cut her off. Evelyn furrowed her eyebrows. I don't want to talk to him anymore.
Really?
He raised his eyebrows almost elegantly.
Do you guys have nothing to talk about? I could have sworn that you were just discussing our intimate life.
Her face immediately flushed dark red. Alex glanced from the woman back to Harvey, pursing his lips in confusion. From what he knew of his boss, he should have already kicked this woman out by now for humiliating them, yet he was asking her to stay. He had to admit that he wasn't a good person, but it was a part of his ideal. He designed clothes that were more suitable for pure-hearted, innocent women, those who weren't touched by a speck of societal dirt. The models he had come across, they were all already rotten to the core. He didn't care much about hurting them. Plus, this woman insulted him. A part of him hoped that Harvey would humiliate her. But then,
what's wrong?
Harvey glanced at Alex.
Are you going to tell me what you've just been talking about?
Evelyn's face reddened in anger. Her hands trembled as she stepped towards him. Look, I'm begging you, she muttered. I'm sorry about what I just said. Just please, don't talk to him anymore. This was her fault. She shouldn't have spoken too freely. It wasn't like she didn't want it. She did. But if he continued to berate Alex, then she'd really be looked down upon. If she wanted to enter this line of work in the future, Alex would be her superior. A few words from him, and her entire career would fold down like a house of cards. Her heart trembled at the thought.
I'm going to say this as slowly as possible.
Harvey refused to walk away. He crossed his arms over his chest.
Evelyn has never asked me for anything. I'm the one who's after her, not the other way around. She's probably the most naive person I've ever met. If ever she were to enter Cage Company one day, it wouldn't be because I'm sleeping with her, but on her own merit. If you're going to bully her, treat her as your assistant, not as my lover. Do you get that?
She froze. His words rang across the entire hall, every single one piercing through her ears. While he was mean and annoying, he still protected her in the most endearing and unconventional way. Evelyn just couldn't understand what was going on with him. He seemed angry just now, yet he pretended like everything was well. He even defended her honor. What was this about? Alex furrowed his eyebrows. He could feel his hair stand up at the back of his neck. Who would have thought that Harvey would go out of his way to defend this woman? Plus, she didn't even want anything from him. Maybe she was right. At least, she was worthy of admiration in that aspect. Finally, having enough, he stood up and bowed his head.
I'll remember what you said.
He glanced at Evelyn with curiosity.
If she can really work at Cage one day, I'll treat her as I would any other intern.
He left soon after. Evelyn couldn't stop looking at Harvey. She didn't even spare a glance in Alex's direction. As soon as he left, Harvey scowled.
You've been staring at me like this the entire time. Do you think I'm handsome?
He scoffed.
You like my face, but you don't enjoy sleeping with me. Is that it?
She immediately snapped back to reality. She turned away and ducked her head. I apologized, didn't I? If looks could kill, she would have already been 10 feet under.
Your apology isn't genuine.
Evelyn resisted the urge to sigh. He was like a child. Whenever he was angry, he'd be too stubborn to accept any apologies. He wasn't an easy man to coax. Evelyn immediately moved to his side. It's not that I didn't want to sleep with you. It's just... Look, I spoke without thinking about it too much. What will it take for you to forgive me? Seeing such an arrogant man defend her as he did, Evelyn would even indulge him again, just this once. But it seemed like something was distracting Harvey as he was staring at the window.
My blind date will be here in 10 minutes,
he said casually. Again? She exclaimed. Why do you keep going on blind dates? Didn't he say he wouldn't marry anyone?
Don't ask. It's already given me a headache.
He scowled. Then what do you want me to say? He just didn't want her to say those things again. His lips curled up into a mischievous smile.
I want you to sit here and laugh, no matter what I say. You have to just do that,
he started.
That way, I might forgive you for what you've just said.
Her stomach stirred. Ugh, why did she have a bad feeling about this? What exactly was Harvey's plan?
at this time. Knowing how worried her brother was, she knew she wouldn't be able to skirt around him any longer. She took a deep breath and leaned back. So you saw everything. It was hard to miss. Evelyn smiled as she pulled on his clothes. Don't be angry, she said sweetly. He just gave me a ride home. We barely even know each other, honestly. She couldn't tell him who this man was, or he'd worry even more. After all, everyone knew Harvey for his illustrious past. Such a distinguished figure shouldn't even be close to her. The last thing she needed was for Mark to know about Harvey. She had to make up an excuse. Mark's anger didn't dissipate. He grabbed her wrist and shook her. I want to know who he is, he snapped, unable to control himself. What was her relationship with him? Did she like him? Was he interested in her? She couldn't belong to someone else. She couldn't be someone else's woman without his knowledge. Pain coursed through her arm as she tried to wrench him away. What's the matter with you? She asked. This isn't a big deal. He just gave me a ride, that's all, I swear. We didn't do anything. Evelyn turned pale, not knowing what to expect from him. Mark's gaze was filled with darkness as he gritted his teeth. No matter how many times he tried, he still couldn't shake off the man's grip on his mind. Who is he? He demanded again. He's the one who saved you when that guest harassed you, right? He's the same person? What is your relationship with him? And why were you out with him at this time of night? Answer me, he shouted. He had never treated Evelyn like this before. He was usually all smiles and laughs, like the little brother she loved, but now his grip felt like 1,000 pounds of steel, and his gaze was fierce enough to make her recoil from him. Little did she know Mark had an aggressive killer hidden inside, a killer who would do anything for her, not because she was his sister, but because he treated her more than just a sister. Would his anger make him do something rash, something that Evelyn would have never thought of even in her wildest dreams? Her mind was clutched with questions. Why was Mark acting so oddly? Why was he making such a big deal about it? Was his possessiveness rooted just in brotherly love? Or was it something Evelyn was unaware of? Would things turn dangerous for Harvey? And much more complicated for Evelyn? Episode 37, An Authoritative Invitation. Evelyn's face paled as she exhaled shakily. It hurts, she whimpered. Look, that person is my manager. His name's Ronald. There have been a lot of perverts around our area recently, so he drove me home. I didn't want you to worry, so I didn't tell you. Immediately, the dark look in his eyes vanished and he let go of her wrist. He had completely forgotten about the rapist. Although he had handled the matter himself, the man's presence was still a huge deal around the area. It was best to be cautious. His heart thumped in his chest as he averted her gaze. He flexed his hand. I'm sorry, I was so worried about you, he stuttered. I didn't mean to hurt you. His grip was so strong that she couldn't break free from his hold. Wanting to see it himself, Mark grabbed her wrist to check if he had left a bruise. Sure enough, her pale skin had become shades of red and purple. Not only had he accosted her, but he had injured her in the process. He stiffened, eyes widening in disbelief. Evelyn must have noticed it because she immediately spoke up. I'm fine. The last thing she needed was for him to know the man's real identity. Unable to help himself, he reached out and pulled her into his arms. He stroked her hair gently as he whispered, I'm sorry for hurting you. I was just worried. I don't have anyone else. Her heart stirred guiltily. She had always made him worry so much. Not only that, but she even had to lie about her whereabouts. He had been overprotective since the death of their parents, and a part of her wanted to tell the truth. She just didn't want him to worry about her. She squeezed him comfortingly. I'm the one who should apologize, she murmured. I'm sorry for making you worry. You're such a good and caring brother. He smiled. I'm your brother. You should be relying on me, not on other men. What are you talking about? She chuckled. I'm still your older sister, so I should be the one taking care of you. Besides, it's not like I'm going to marry anytime soon. I will not rest until I see you graduate. His eyes lit up as he tightened his grip around her. Then you have to promise me not to worry about me, all right? I swear, when I graduate from college, I'll take care of you. When that would happen, he'd make sure all her hard work paid off.
He'd have the money to provide her with anything she desired so she could rest and have fun. They could have everything they ever wanted. Okay. Her smile widened as she nodded repeatedly. I promise that once you finish your education, the entire Smith family will rest on your shoulders. I'll enjoy life then.
It's a promise.
She chuckled. The turbulent storm in his heart finally receded, and he felt himself start to calm again. He couldn't help but gaze at her wrist. While the swelling had decreased, her skin still looked a little battered. He held her slender wrist, rubbing his fingers against the affected area.
I'm sorry, he whispered. I've hurt you, haven't I?
You've gotten stronger, that's for sure. Evelyn rolled her eyes, pulling back her wrist. You little brat. I should be more careful in the future, just in case you ever pull a stunt like that again. He pulled Evelyn to the couch and grabbed the first aid kit from the side table before taking out a cotton ball. He squeezed out the ointment and applied it to her bruise.
I've become a lot stronger than I sometimes realize, he said. How else would I protect you?
She wanted to say that once he found a girl he liked in the future, all his strength would go into protecting that girl. However, she stayed silent and turned away. After all, she didn't have much time left to enjoy his gentleness. He was at the right age to find the girl he would love and eventually marry. Soon enough, he'd probably be tired of caring for her as he started his new family. Ever since their parents died, it had also been hard for him, but not a day went by that he did not care for her. He was always very sweet, ensuring that she was safe and sound. She reached out and tousled his hair. It must have been tough on you to have a clumsy sister like me.
You're still the best.
He smiled at her. Also, don't touch my head. I'm not a kid anymore. But your hair's so soft.
You're still touching me.
She teased him a bit more before both retired for the evening. She snuggled under her bedspread and slept throughout the night. After everything that had happened, it was what she needed to wake refreshed. Seeing her settled, Mark went back to his bedroom and changed into his black leather clothing. He put on his cap, and as he walked toward the door, glanced at her room to see her sleeping with the moonlight gently caressing her face through the window. He stepped inside. It was as if the moon was illuminating her small frame as the light fell on her soft, alluring lips. His heart clenched. Mark's breathing became ragged as he bent over the bed, drawn in by her delicate beauty. Just as his lips were about to graze hers, he instead pecked her forehead.
Good night, Evelyn,
he whispered. Without another word, he turned around and stepped out of the room. He headed down the block and eventually jumped inside the waiting van.
Even with all this shit happening, you still don't forget to go home, do ya?
Ray snorted as he played with his switchblade.
Still a little boy, huh? One more word, and you won't be alive to see tomorrow.
Mark shot him a glare before glancing at the men sitting in the back seat.
Now, what are we doing? It's like every night we have a new assignment.
You say that now, but you love this stuff, Ray pointed out. Besides, what we are doing gives a win to the good guys. His lips curled upwards.
Well, our sense of justice isn't being appreciated enough.
Ray didn't answer. While Ray was the same age as him, he was his subordinate. That didn't upset him one bit. After all, he knew that Mark was a driven man, determined to use his skills to right as many wrongs in this city as possible. He mixed that determination with fairness and kindness to the victims they encountered. It was probably because he grew up in a loving family and wanted that for others. It was just something he couldn't leave behind. The desire for something he lost might either make him or destroy him. He was curious to see what the end result would be. In Harvey's villa, the night was quiet and peaceful. However, the bickering and angst in the study disturbed the place's ambiance. Zach glanced at his back.
The butler called me to say that Madame was so angry about your latest stunt that she has fallen ill. She's the one who said that unless we have a satisfactory agreement, I mustn't let Lauren go.
Harvey glanced back, and his gaze was as cold as ice.
I only followed her wishes, didn't I?
Even then, his assistant didn't seem too convinced.
She's also your grandmother. Wouldn't you? Until I have complete control, I won't see her.
He finally cut off any other conversation about the matter. An indescribable emotion passed over his face before he looked away.
She's the one who taught me I'll lose everything if I let my guard down. I'm just practicing her teachings.
At noon the next day, the man Evelyn had hoped would stay away actually showed up, as he didn't cancel his reservation, to her great disappointment. The sun gleamed through the windows as Harvey sat at the far back of the restaurant. She stood beside him, trying her best to make him scowl. If looks could kill, the man would have already been having tea with the devil. What the hell was his problem? Did he enjoy torturing her that much? Didn't he have anything else to do? However, as her thoughts became even more murderous by the second, Harvey's smile only widened in amusement.
I thought servers were supposed to smile when they're greeting customers, he commented. Or has your policy changed? I should probably speak to the manager about this.
What are you saying? We're always smiling here. Her lips twitched into a fake smile. What do you want to order, Mr. Cage?
Do you have any recommendations?
Well, she opened the menu. Today's special is the Italian honey steak. We just had the Kobe beef delivered by air this morning, and we even brewed our 12-hour special sauce. I heard it's pretty good. He cocked an eyebrow.
Are there any other dishes?
Knowing where this was going, she closed the menu and snapped. I already know what you're doing. Look, just tell me what you want to eat, and I'll be sure the kitchen gets it out to you in no time. Instead of humoring her, he suddenly stood up.
I want to eat some fresh salmon sushi. Why don't we head to the Japanese restaurant?
You can leave. She stepped aside. I won't stop you. She didn't expect he would grab her wrist and pull her along with him. She furrowed her eyebrows as her gaze fell on his tight grip. Where are you taking me now?
We're going to eat there, he shrugged.
Look, I have only been working here a few days. I can't just announce I'm leaving. She held her ground, struggling to pull back. I still need to work.
Harvey frowned. Isn't your job to serve me?
She gritted her teeth. My job is here. It's not like you're the one who hired me. Look, just don't mess with me, all right?
That depends. He smiled. If you promise me that you'll leave with me tonight.
Tonight? Was she going to go with him again? Evelyn froze. Every time she and Harvey would meet up, they'd usually end up doing something casual, but it always went in one direction. No way, she scowled.
And here I thought I'd let you head home at midnight if you agreed to go with me.
He cocked an eyebrow.
If you're going to be this difficult, then I'll have someone tie you up and kidnap you. What do you say about that?
He spoke calmly, as if he were talking about the weather, not hatching a plan to rip her from her place of employment against her wishes. Her lips twitched as she crossed her arms over her chest. Look, what do you want? Even if he threatened her, there was no way he would go that far. He might be an arrogant man, but he wouldn't force people to do his bidding. Since he wanted her to follow him, then something must be up. Knowing that she wasn't going anywhere with him, he finally said, I want to give you something. What is it? She looked at him warily. Last time he had given her a necklace, and she remembered exactly how that went. When he had made her meet her favorite designer, the man insulted her within minutes, spoiling the entire thing. Now that he was offering to give her something again, she couldn't help but be a little chary.
Why are you being so cautious?
His face darkened.
Do you think I'd give you something horrid or something that you wouldn't like?
Glancing up at him, she hurriedly replied, It's not that. It's just, fine, I'll go with you tonight. Do you want to eat here now or not?
Of course I want to eat now. I'll order something.
He finally sat down, looking satisfied with the outcome of their little spat. Ugh, that bastard! Her jaw clenched. Even after this, he still wanted her to wait on him. After Harvey finished his meal, he wiped his mouth and stood up.
I'll pick you up at your house at 7. Remember to dress to impress. I don't want to see you dressed like you're getting ready for bed.
His nose wrinkled. I don't dress that badly. He stared at her with one eyebrow cocked, disputing that claim. Evelyn ducked her head and stayed silent. Without another word, Harvey left the restaurant. Even as her shift finally ended, she still couldn't get her mind off him. What the hell was he planning to do tonight? Episode 38, Date Night. Evelyn's imagination was running wild by the time she headed home to get changed. She couldn't wrap her mind around Harvey's invitation. After work, she got to her house and, moving to her bedroom, sank onto the stool in front of her dressing mirror. She gazed at her reflection, biting her bottom lip. She didn't dress up very often. There weren't any events she went to normally that would require that level of effort. Even if there were, she was always so busy she didn't have time to put in the effort that was required. Should she dress up? Who wants to dress up for that bastard? She murmured to herself as she felt her insides tingle. Just then, a thought occurred to her, and she bolted from her seat. Cindy. She hadn't called her since she came back from the island. Pursing her lips in guilt, Evelyn grabbed her phone. Maybe it was time to make a call. The phone was picked up on the first ring. Cindy. So, you know how to call, huh? Cindy's smooth voice sounded from the other end of the line, and she sighed in relief. Look, I know you're angry, but I was busy, she sighed. But I've already settled everything now. You may not be busy now, but I am. She glanced at her watch. I'm at the airport right this minute, heading to the UK. You're going again? Damn, I needed to go somewhere tonight, and I'll be home very late. There was a pause before she said, I'm afraid Mark might call to ask where I'm heading. If he does, just tell him I'm with you, okay? Cindy sounded off about something as she walked quickly toward her destination. Evelyn could hear the resounding click of her heels moving at a rapid pace. If he called me, all he'd hear is the plane taking off. Do you think I can tell him you followed me all the way to England? She sighed. Can't you just tell him that you'll be returning late? Evelyn's smile had turned into a frown. You know how it is. He's an orphan, and I'm his older sister. I'm the only family he had left. That's why he's always so concerned about my well-being. Right. Cindy pursed her lips. She knew Mark had always been a little protective of Evelyn. Then say you're with my brother. He knows him anyway, and I can call him and— No, she cut her off. I'll just say that I'm with my colleagues. There was a short pause before her friend started speaking again. This time her voice was much softer than before. You still care about him, don't you? There's something I wanted to tell you about him. She seemed to hesitate to reveal whatever was on her mind. The matter between your brother and I ended long ago, Evelyn interrupted, not wanting to hear what was to come next. There's no need to bring it up. I know you've suffered so much because of him. If you still like him, Cindy, I don't feel anything for him anymore. Evelyn sighed helplessly, waving her hand in the air, dismissing further consideration of the idea. Besides, it's been years. We both have our own lives now, so neither of us has any reason to revisit our history. Both of us are in much better places today. At this point, it seemed that she had already made up her mind. Cindy resisted the urge to sigh. If this truly was the true state of their current relationship, there was no need for her to know about her brother's canceled engagement. All right, I agree with you, and that's what makes you the best. Just then, a thought occurred to her. Cindy tilted her head. By the way, what exactly is going on between you and Harvey? Her friend just had to bring that up. You're going abroad. There's no need to worry about that for now, she remarked as she gazed out the window. How about this? I'll tell you about it when you get back. It's truly not that big of a deal. It's not that big of a deal, yet you're avoiding my question. It's not like that. Look, I promise to tell you everything once you are back, okay? Fine, I'll give you a few days. Besides, Cindy knew that this matter shouldn't be discussed on the phone, and she didn't think Harvey was bullying Evelyn or anything that was putting her in danger. It was just curiosity, and she'd have to wait to find out the truth when she got back from her trip. I'll get going now. Bye! As soon as she hung up the phone, her heart felt a little empty as she nervously chewed on her bottom lip. Did Evelyn truly cut all ties with Timothy? When did that happen? Could it be the day Timothy had gotten drunk? If that was the case, then she hadn't heard incorrectly. He had called out Evelyn's name. She had completely cut ties with him, so he had spiraled into depression. But why would he be feeling like that? Wasn't he the one who had rejected Evelyn? Her hands clenched into fists. So what was the reason? Just then she blinked. Before Evelyn confessed, he had gone to England for about half a month, she murmured in realization. Maybe that was the reason why Evelyn had become overcome with grief. The tears had run down her cheeks as she immediately confessed her feelings to her brother on his return. But she immediately shook the thought away. If he had liked Evelyn before that trip, he wouldn't have been able to change his mind about her that fast, she murmured. Whatever. Now definitely wasn't the time to think about these things. There were just 1,000 loose ends when it came to Timothy's relationship with Evelyn, and she couldn't figure them out. They were the only two people who knew what was going on. At 7 o'clock in the evening, Harvey drove the car through the gates of his home to drive into town. The summer days were truly much longer this time of year. The sun had just set, and the street lamps started to flicker to life. He kept his eyes peeled, and off in the distance he could see Evelyn by the entrance of her building. A body-hugging green dress clung to her form perfectly, and he could see yellow hand-painted flowers decorated across the skirt. Her long hair was tied back with a glittery hair tie. Something about her dress was sexy, and yet not overly showy. Her light makeup also made her appear elegant, without looking overly made up. A few men glanced her way while walking down the block. Upon seeing the men moving around her, he couldn't help but smile. She really was beautiful. A black Mercedes stopped right in front of her. Harvey stepped out of the car and walked around the vehicle toward her. Her heart skipped a beat upon seeing him, and she clutched her handbag to steady her hands. His hooded eyes traced over her body. "You look really beautiful, Evelyn."
That dress looks like it was made for you."
"I told you I can dress well, didn't I?" she replied with a slight curl of her lips. "Besides, if I'm following you to some high-class restaurant, I don't need anyone thinking less of you for my clothing choices."
"Really? I have heard it said that women dress up to impress the men they like."
His eyes gleamed mockingly. Her cheeks reddened. "I would love to know who said that, because I only dress to please myself. You think too highly of yourself if you believe all this effort was for you alone." He'd have scoffed at such an insult if this were any other man or woman, at least if they dared to insult him. However, now he couldn't help but find her confidence attractive.
"Get in the car." He leaned in closer. "I'll make sure you have an unforgettable night."
Her heart thumped in her chest as she slid into the car. An unforgettable night? What was he insinuating? Harvey didn't bother expanding on his words as he got into the car, ignoring the crowd's envious gazes. The drive took them about half an hour, and soon enough Evelyn found herself looking up at a tall building with a hotel name in gold flashing in the night. Her legs shook as she stepped out of the car. Even the appearance of this hotel was something she'd never forget. How could she when this was the same hotel where they had met? A few months ago, she had squatted in that pile of bushes nearby to see if Harvey would ever show up. How was she supposed to know then that their fateful meeting would change her life completely?
"Why are you just standing there?"
he asked. "You know why I stopped, right?" Her mouth twitched. "What are you planning to do?" Was he trying to get them a room? He shoved his hands into his pockets.
"I wanted to bring you here to eat."
Her cheeks turned bright red. She had initially thought that he was planning to sleep with her again. Her fingers twitched as she glanced to the side, only to see the familiar bush by the entrance. "Then you know that this is the place where we first met, so Instead of hearing her out, Harvey turned around.
"Follow me."
That command didn't leave any room for her to argue. Why did they even have to eat here? They traveled in the elevator to the hotel's revolving restaurant on the top floor. They ate, chatted, and even laughed a bit. She finally started to relax halfway through the meal, and once their dinner was over, he finally glanced at his watch.
"There's still time before midnight. Why don't we go watch a movie?"
She stared at him for a long time. Eat? Watch a movie? Didn't this seem... Were they on a date? As soon as the thought materialized, a blush stained her cheeks to a dark red. She lowered her head. "Okay," she replied, shocking herself that she didn't fight him anymore. What was she thinking? Was she honestly going on a date with Harvey? No, she just liked watching movies, that's all. She tried hard to convince herself. 10 minutes later, she found herself sitting in a hotel room facing a large flat-screen TV. She felt anger biting at her insides as she knit her eyebrows together angrily. "You said we were going to watch a movie, not that we'll be watching it in the presidential suite," Evelyn snarled as she crossed her arms over her chest. What had she done? Had she just willfully walked into Harvey's trap? Episode 39. A Gift. While Evelyn appeared flustered and frustrated by her apprehensions, Harvey sat comfortably beside her, looking like he didn't have a care in the world. He raised his eyebrows in her direction.
"I like to watch here,"
he stated. "Well, I'm not comfortable," Evelyn said, pouting a bit over this latest development. The hotel room was just far too staged for her liking. The smell of perfume, the candles, and the roses all seemed a bit much. There was even a bottle of red wine on the table. If she stayed here and watched it all play out, who knew what would happen next between them? However, just as she was about to leave, Harvey reached out to pull her back.
"You can't even watch a movie with me without having dirty thoughts?"
His smile became mocking, and his eyes flashed with a challenge.
"Don't tell me that you're attracted to me."
There was something about his actions that held her back. There was no way in hell that this man would look down on her. She wasn't going to let him win that easily. Her fingers dug into her palms as she gritted her teeth. Taking a deep breath, she raised her head. "Then I want to watch a romance film."
"What do you think of Roman Holiday?"
"I'm good with that." Evelyn rolled her eyes and sat down. There was no way she would back down without a fight. But even then, she knew the reality of her situation.
Sometimes compromising could save her a lot of trouble. The pair sat side by side as the movie started to play. The scent of roses and vanilla filled the room, creating a romantic setting. She focused on the sounds from the movie, ignoring the way the lights had dimmed all around them. While he left her watching, Harvey slipped into the other room and came back with a small container of ice cream and 2 spoons. She was the only one digging in at first, but she saw that Harvey scooped some for himself after a while. Her eyes widened. Noticing this, he cocked his eyebrow at her. "What? I can't eat ice cream now?" "It's not that," she stuttered. "It's just, I thought you didn't like sweets." "Ah." His eyes widened momentarily. "That's why I chose the sugar-free flavor." "Oh." As the movie continued, the candles gradually burned down, and the room was thrown into darkness, except for the illumination from the TV. The screen flickered a bit, and she couldn't help looking at Harvey's face from the corner of her eye. He was truly handsome. His eyebrows were still perfectly shaped, and his thin lips complemented his sculpted jawline. From the curve of his nose to the size of his eyes, everything about him was perfectly proportioned. God had his favorites, she thought to herself. Glad he couldn't read minds. Her face turned bright red at the thought. Countless other women dreamed of standing next to him as his date, or something more. Not only would they be able to get this hunk of a man, but they'd also have untold advantages in their career endeavors. They'd eat with him and dance the night away with him, but no one would know him as she did. As they sat side by side, eating out of the same bucket of ice cream, she couldn't help but feel as if she knew him better than anyone else in the world. Other women would have admired his handsome face, muscled body, and bank account. Some would have found his arrogance charming and his drive sexy. But after knowing him for this long, she found the little details to be the most endearing. She didn't need any high-end villas or 5-star dishes. All she wanted was to live an ordinary life with the person who loved her. Now, she didn't see him as the overbearing CEO she once had. Instead, she saw him as a kind and gentle man who was fortunate not to have a care in the world if he didn't choose to. This look fitted him way better. "I must be more handsome than the male lead to have you staring at me like you are," Harvey muttered in a low tone. He appeared to be staring at the screen this entire time, and surprised, she reeled back with a shrug. "What are you talking about? I've been watching the movie this entire time." "If you're watching, you'd know that the movie had ended a couple of minutes ago," his husky voice whispered in the dark. It was a good thing the lights were out, otherwise he'd be able to see her tomato-red face. He seemed unbothered by her attention as he reached out his hand to take hers and pull her upright. "Close your eyes and follow me." She blinked, trying to figure out where they were headed. "What are you planning?" "I told you I'd be giving you something, didn't I?" His dark eyes shone in the dark. This time it was much harder for her to look away. "Just close your eyes and follow me." Although she didn't know what he was up to, she closed her eyes and held his hand, allowing him to lead the way. His grip tightened around her as he pulled her across the room. Her surroundings were pitch black, and she couldn't even feel her way across the room. In fact, all she felt was the soothing warmth of his fingertips. Surprisingly, she didn't feel as afraid as she should have been. It didn't take long before they came to an abrupt stop. The breeze raced across her face from an open window, and the corners of her lips twitched downwards, still not understanding his surprise. "Open your eyes and take a closer look," he whispered. "It's my gift to you." She found herself in front of a floor-to-ceiling window when she opened her eyes. Evelyn looked at the tall buildings visible through the window and found nothing but flickering lights and moving cars. However, just as she was about to ask him what she should look for, a billboard suddenly lit up. On the opposite side of the hotel was the biggest luxury brand store in New York, and on top of the building was a billboard several stories tall. Loud music came from the display, and the billboard came to life in dazzling color. There, at the center, showed a familiar face, and yet unfamiliar in a way she couldn't immediately put a finger on. She froze. It felt as if everything around her had disappeared. Evelyn held her breath. The woman on the billboard looked like she was fluttering in the wind. Her hair was being blown over her shoulders, and her skirt appeared to be whisked away by the waves. She held a red flower in her hands as if she would hand it over to someone else. A timid smile graced the woman's features, as if she were but a nymph rising from the waters behind her. The woman was beautiful.
She had never known that she could smile like that, or even pose in that manner. Who was she even looking at that could make her appear this way? Then she realized that it was Harvey alone who had made this happen. Her heart thumped, and it felt as if all the blood had rushed to her head. Her breathing became ragged as she tried to calm her brain and not lose her mind on him. Could it be that... She bit her lips.
Well, do you think it looks good? You still have a long way to go till your work appears on the billboard, but for now, I guess I'll let you appear as a model, he murmured. You look beautiful in that picture, as you do now, standing here with me.
Evelyn could feel her entire body trembling as she stared up at him. He leaned against the large window frame with his hands in his pockets. A small smile played on his lips as he stared at the billboard. The artificial lights reflected a small corner of his face, as if he were a god staring down at his people. He had promised her a night she could never forget. He wasn't lying. Even if her work never could enter the most luxurious stores in New York, she had never thought that she'd appear on a billboard. He had truly made an impossible dream a reality. However, that wasn't the only thing she couldn't forget. It was also his presence, the way he sat back and allowed her to revel at this moment. Perhaps to him, she was stunning and beautiful, but to her, he was the most beautiful sight she had ever seen. She took a deep breath as she turned the other way. Decades from now, his face would blur into a faint memory, but she would never forget the way her heart raced at his voice, or the way her breathing would turn ragged in his presence. These feelings she'd always hold close to her heart. Even if he were to leave her one day, her heart would forever be engraved with gratitude for all he had done. The arrogant man raised his eyebrows.
Do you like my gift?
Evelyn still found herself at a loss for words. She lowered her head in panic, feeling as if her mouth had gone dry. However, Harvey didn't wait for a response as he walked in front of her and ran his fingers down her long black hair. A moment later, they were locked in an intense kiss. However, this time he wasn't fighting for control. It was intoxicating and erotic in a way that she did not expect. She could feel her body up against his as he lifted her off the ground, wrapping her legs around his waist. Before she knew it, she was lying on the bed, and he was pulling his tie off. Her clothes were in total disarray as she pushed him away. "You are shameless!" He just scowled at her without speaking a word. It wasn't as if he had forced her. She was the one who had initiated this entire thing. Knowing what he was thinking, she bit her lip. All she could think about was his lips kissing a trail down her neck. What the hell was she even thinking? Her palms were sweating. This was just too dangerous. She could already feel her heart racing in her chest. If they continued to follow through with this, she'd only sink deeper into her feelings for him. It was time to wake up. It's already midnight. Turning around, she paid more attention to the tiles than to the man in front of her. The billboard is really beautiful, and I appreciate you for doing that. I should head back.
Are you talking to me or the floor?
Harvey asked bluntly. Her frown deepened, but she didn't dare raise her head. She knew that the moment her gaze settled on his face, her resolve would fall away. It's midnight, she said again. I have to head back. He grabbed her wrist.
Are you Cinderella? Is our car going to transform into a pumpkin? Just look at me.
This time, Evelyn couldn't move at all. Her heart skipped a beat. She swallowed hard and finally raised her head. You said that you'd let me go at midnight, she protested like a little girl who hadn't been given her Christmas presents. Her cheeks were still a little flushed from the fierce embrace. However, behind her brave act was a woman who didn't want to leave. His grip burned her wrist, and her cheeks reddened even more. Why was she like this around him? When Harvey saw how she looked, he blinked, stunned by her sudden declaration. His grip unconsciously tightened around her wrist. There was something so delicate about her that a weird feeling washed over him. It was as if his heart was being held tightly in her hands, that even a few words could manipulate him. This was the first time he had ever seen a woman with this much resistance to what he could offer, and yet so much control over him. Just one look at her face was enough for him to go against his basic principles. He had promised to let her go after midnight, yet he couldn't find it in himself to head toward the exit. His jaw clenched. What was wrong with him? Just let go of me, she whispered, struggling under his grip. She remembered the feeling she had with Timothy, this fullness in her heart and the need churning in her body. However, this feeling was far stronger than she had ever imagined. It was as if the need clawed at her like a wild animal, not allowing her out of its grasp. His face stamped on every inch of her mind, and suddenly all she could see was him.
"No," he said firmly. "You aren't going home tonight."
Her eyes widened. "But we agreed." No, she had to go back. Her thoughts came to a standstill as Harvey forced her to look up at him. His sultry voice rang in her ears, and she could feel her legs growing limp.
"Even if you are Cinderella, I still wouldn't let you go."
Evelyn felt her entire body freeze. His handsome face hovered above her, and she got lost in his eyes. It was like falling into an abyss, sinking deeper with each passing moment. He wrapped his arms around her with a smile and kissed her lips. His warm embrace made her sink against his chest, and they fell on the bed before long. She had always been so adamant about never crossing paths like this in the past. Yet now, why did the mere thought of separating from him make her heart throb? Was her resolve slipping? Episode 40. Interrogated by Mark. A black car sped through the city, and Mark couldn't help but look up from his seat. Ray furrowed his eyebrow at his buddy, nudging him.
"What are you looking at?" "I just thought I saw someone familiar on one of the billboards. She looks a lot like my sister."
He frowned.
Ray snorted. "I think you need some more sleep, boss. It looks like you're pretty out of it." "My sister's pretty enough to be a model," Mark scowled.
"I know, it's not that." He raised his hands in the air in protest. "It's just, it'd be impossible for you to know anything about this. I mean, she tells you everything, right?" Mark stared at him for a long time, and he immediately shut his mouth.
"I guess you were right,"
Mark muttered as he relaxed. Mark couldn't care what anyone in the car thought as he closed his eyes. Perhaps it was just a trick of the moonlight. Every waking moment, Evelyn was all he could think about. Even when he had gotten into tough situations, she remained the most important thing on his mind. He didn't think that was going to change anytime soon. In time, he'd be with her, without the dangerous underbelly of the city taking all his time. The corners of his lips curled up into a smile. He didn't know that the girl in the back row was staring at him. She gripped the handle of her knife, turning her head to hide the surprise in her gaze. This was the 5th time she had joined one of his missions, yet this was the first time she had ever seen him smile. He was handsome, and she wished he would return her a longing look for once. The next morning, Harvey was filled with energy. He clapped his hands together, eyes shining as he readied for the day. Evelyn, on the other hand, looked exhausted. Even if she wanted to get up now, she couldn't. Fixing his tie, he glanced to the side.
"You can stay here, but your life will change once people see the billboard," he warned. "Not only is it in a prominent location in New York, but it will be distributed in magazines and websites. Don't let anyone recognize you, and keep a low profile."
She shrugged. "It's just an advertisement, not a TV series. I'm sure it wouldn't be that big of a deal."
"Sure, ordinary advertisements wouldn't be that big of a deal. But this isn't an ordinary advertisement. You're filming for Clock, our most popular brand and collection yet," Harvey stated. "You'll be the face that thousands of girls want to be like. You know that, right? You're every girl's dream come true."
Evelyn blinked in surprise. Right. She hadn't understood the fame that she'd get when Harvey had asked her to replace Isabel. Her hands trembled on her lap. All she'd wanted was to fill in due to the missing person. Yet this could be the start of her debut in the eyes of complete outsiders. Especially with a brand like Clock, it was obvious that she'd be on front pages everywhere. It really shouldn't be underestimated.
"I'm going back to the company now. You should eat, all right?"
He leaned over and kissed her on the forehead.
"I'll see you tonight."
Her cheeks reddened. As soon as the man had left, she reached up to touch her forehead. She sat up with the blankets wrapped around her, and her gaze fell on the huge billboard outside her window. "Go on a date with me. Right now. Right here. Clock's summer collection. Every woman's need for a calming breeze." The heading was placed right next to her smiling face. Even as she looked at it again, she still couldn't find it in herself to believe it. Of course, she wasn't the only one who found it unbelievable.
Waiting for the light to change, Alex glanced up at the billboard. He froze when he saw the noticeable woman posing in his dress. His jaw dropped and his phone fell from his hand. "Impossible, impossible," he murmured. Without another word, he rushed across the street. As soon as Harvey had arrived at the company, he could see managers from several departments standing by the entrance, ready to report their latest updates. "Sir, Rico, our men's collection, has increased its sales by 5% this year alone. Next summer, we plan on increasing it by 10%. He pursed his lips. "Most of our funds were funneled to Rico, and its sales didn't meet the mark last year. Even if this year makes up for it, we have to reach 15% to level the playing field. Make that happen." He continued to discuss the new releases, promotions, and other crucial information with the people milling around. Once he reached the elevator, he turned to them. "Continue doing great work, and report to me if anything comes up." He waved his hand. "Make sure to send the documents to my office." "Yes, sir." Everyone dispersed within a few seconds, except for one man. Harvey narrowed his eyes at the designer. "What's wrong?" "It's impossible. The clothes weren't fitted, keeping her in mind. But the way she wore it, it's as if it was made for her." Alex stuttered. Even he couldn't comprehend his words. I thought you'd done some special effects or editing, but did her beauty just knock some sense out of your brain?" The corners of his lips quirked up into a proud smile. "I've chosen Evelyn, as she'll be the perfect fit for your dress. Are you questioning my decision?" Alex fell silent. The look on his boss's face made all his doubts disappear. He had been so confident that no woman would ever be able to do his clothes justice. But Harvey had found one. Suddenly, an overwhelming feeling crashed over Alex like a tidal wave. "I want to see her." After gazing at the advertisement, he felt a flurry of inspiration flashing across his mind, but all the designs were blurry and abstract. Perhaps after seeing her, he'd finally be able to bring those thoughts to life. Upon hearing his words, Harvey frowned. Alex wanted to see Evelyn. "And why do you want to see her?" There was a cold edge to his tone. At first, the designer was confused at the reply before he realized who exactly he was asking to meet. She was none other than his woman. "Crap. Don't misunderstand," he said quickly. "I just want to find some inspiration for my designs. If I see her again, I feel like I'll be able to draw more designs for our next summer collection." "Ah." Harvey visibly relaxed as a trace of a smile appeared on his lips. He patted his shoulder. "I'm also looking forward to Clock's newest collection. Don't worry about it. I'll help you meet her." As soon as he walked away, Alex couldn't help but furrow his eyebrows. Not only did his boss not give him any of her contact information, but he didn't even give him a time when they could meet. Was he trying to prevent him from getting close to this woman? But that was impossible. He never really cared much about his one-night stands. What made her so special? He couldn't understand it. He didn't understand many things, though, so he let the thought flit out of his mind. "Did you see the newest Clock collection? I decided to use up my monthly allowance and bought the model's dress," the woman whispered. "Maybe Mark will go on a date with me then. I saw the billboard too. She's so dreamlike, like a swan that emerged out of the waters." The other girl waved her hand. "And forget about Mark. Ray is the only one who's allowed to get close to him. I wouldn't even be surprised if they outed themselves." "I guess so." "I mean, they do look cute together." "What are you guys talking about?" Ray had just walked in as he hovered over the phone they were staring at. However, before taking a good look at it, Mark snatched it away from them. His eyes widened. There was no mistake. The woman on the billboard? It was Evelyn. "Fuck!" he spat as he ran out of the classroom. "I'm going to skip class today." Everyone in the room was stunned. Ray stared after him in confusion. What the hell is he going to do? As Mark headed outside, he dialed his sister's number. What he didn't know was that she was standing in the subway. So many people were talking about her face on the street that she had to go underground. This was the moment she had waited her entire life for, but she didn't feel excited. She lowered her head, staring at the ground. While her face was on every city corner, they still couldn't recognize her. It seemed that the makeup was the only thing that made her a model. Her phone rang, and Evelyn hurriedly turned it over to check the caller ID. As soon as she saw Mark's name on the screen, her heart sank. She'd forgotten about her brother. Swallowing hard, she picked up the phone. "Mark? Where are you now? What's the advertisement I've been seeing?" An authoritative voice came from the other end of the line, and she froze. She had to double-check the screen to see if it was her brother. A guilty feeling stirred in her stomach. "Don't be angry."
She tried to stop the anger she heard in his voice. "Look, how about we discuss this at home, okay? I'm heading back home right now." Even then, she couldn't help but sigh in relief. It was a good thing that he hadn't come home last night. Otherwise, she would have been finished.
"Fine. You better explain everything."
He hung up before she could say anything else. He was angry. That was evident enough. "Damn," Evelyn sighed, rubbing her forehead in worry. Evelyn had never hidden anything from her brother. However, ever since she had met Harvey, she kept secrets. The more she lied, the more she couldn't stop. This time she had to lie about the billboard. A guilty feeling stirred in her stomach. As soon as she returned home, she saw Mark sitting on the sofa. His arms were crossed over his chest as he stared straight ahead, unmoving. She plastered a small smile on her face. "Look what I brought," she sang, swinging the plastic bag in his direction. "It's your favorite pastry from that bakery you like. Why don't we eat some before we talk?" He finally looked up. This time his brown eyes looked much softer and brighter.
"Did I burden you so much? Would you be happier if I didn't exist?"
She blinked in surprise. "What are you talking about?" She frowned. "I would be devastated if you weren't here. Don't you know how important you are to me?" What was going on? He had sounded so furious on the phone call just half an hour ago, and now he looked like an abused puppy.
"Then why did you take that job opportunity? You didn't do it for fame, I know, because you want to be a designer, not a model."
He started as he finally stood up from his seat.
"Did you take it because you needed the money? Is it because of my dormitory fees?"
"Of course it's not," she immediately cut him off. "I didn't take the money for you. I did it for—" Oh, fuck. She had intended to lie that the funds weren't enough, but how would she do that now? She chewed on her bottom lip. Damn it! It had taken her a whole minute to get a hold of herself. This time she could hear Mark's cold voice.
"Then tell me the real reason."
Evelyn found herself seated on the sofa as she stared at her younger brother's cold face. Her heart squeezed painfully in her chest, but her composed features didn't show what she was feeling. It shouldn't be like this. Her cute little brother should have just been pestering her right now, like the naive little boy he used to be.
"Don't try to lie to me this time. I can tell if you do,"
Mark stated as his gaze locked onto hers. He looked like a predator eyeing his prey as he crossed his arms over his chest. She clenched her fists. While he might be smart, he couldn't distinguish between her truths and lies. At least he couldn't in the past, though he hadn't been trying to catch her in the act. He believed her because there wasn't any room for doubt. This time it was different. She couldn't escape. When had he grown so perceptive? It wasn't easy to lie to him now that he was all grown up. "Look, the reason why I agreed to the photo shoot is—" She sighed. "It's a bit childish, so don't be annoyed with me, okay?"
"I won't judge you, as long as you tell me the truth."
Would Evelyn finally reveal everything to Mark? Would Mark be understanding of her situation and her feelings for Harvey? Or would his possessiveness for Evelyn get the better of him?